It's Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale, meaning your favorite mattresses are on sale. On top of that, get an additional 10% off, like a Beauty Rest Firm Queen mattress for $454.99. Plus, get an additional 10% off, only at Mattress Firm.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So today is a very exciting video and I decided to wear this specific shirt because it is just a good day. Now my shirt, it obviously has a pineapple because I am a fan of pineapples, pineapple, more pineapples, and other pineapples you cannot see. My shirt says always be happy. And yes, it's a very good thing to live by and you definitely should always live to be happy, but guess what? Today is an especially happy day because what is happening? What is almost here? The Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. So if you don't know what the 21 Days of Beauty is, skirt, where have you been? So Ulta has a beauty event that's gonna last from Sunday, September 3rd, all the way to Saturday, September 23rd. And every single day within those days of the event, there's going to be beauty steals from different brands. And it could be your favorite brand or a brand you may wanna try out. And you can get certain products up to 50% off. Not 15, up to 50. 50. Up to 50% is a huge discount because it could be a brand that you've been maybe wanting to try or maybe get that product and now you can finally get it because it's on discount, or maybe it's one of your holy grail products that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's a beauty steal, I'm about to stock up. So with the beauty steals, just to make it clear, there are beauty steals that are available only online and also in store, and then there's also new
honey.
Hey. Oh, now you can probably hear me. Hey. You're getting some, well, you may not have seen it, you're getting some positive comments about your sick beats you have playing. You might hear a lot of background noise. My wife is vacuuming for another few minutes and then I'll tell her to stop. I am talking to you real quick. Of course, my AC would kick on quite literally as we hit. What are you doing, Paul?
Nothing. You can bring in the Surface Pro to Ignite.
Am I? No.
Yeah.
Paul, I plan on getting work done.
Right. Sorry. That was a silly question.
Well, actually, the bigger problem is that I can't run any sort of video editing software on here. So I will be ready in just 1 second. Paul, as you know, my daughter is very excited that she's going to get to meet you for reasons I will never understand.
Yeah, she will not understand as well, but go on.
She wanted to know today if you like colors because she might bring some for you.
That is amazing.
I know I asked her, I was like, are you going to be scared when you meet Paul? Because, you know, she's a kid. Like, anytime they meet someone new.
No, she will be scared. She will be scared.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, I told her you were an ogre. But she's like, I think my stuffed animals will be scared, not me. It's like,
it's not going to help when I, like, jump out in the clown outfit from it, you know, in the hotel lobby.
What was that, Suncast?
Okay.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to just do Skype?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we should probably let it. It seems like it always takes like a minute, and then for whatever reason, I was trying to think of some in-sync joke involving the Backstreet Boys, but I have failed the viewing audience once again. Mm-hmm.
Why on earth would you expect it to behave the same every single day? For example, I signed in today and I was on the right microphone, but the 4 other days this week I signed in and somehow I wasn't.
Do I have to re-embed it again? Oh, Jesus. Well, this is a bit more of a fire.
Answer to your question.
Let me look. I hate so YouTube changed up their design, which is not very helpful. No, I think it is the same. Just changed up their. All right, so we're just gonna run with it. It's good. Nothing but the finest top quality. All right, we should be good to go, I think. Yes, this is definitely how the sausage is made every day, everyone.
Poorly and with lots of crying.
The crying comes later, though, Paul. All right. We ready to rock and roll? Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to First Ring Daily Live. It is Friday, the Friday before this thing, Ignite. And Paul and I am excited. My daughter, who's also going, is excited. I don't know if Paul's excited.
I'm not excited, but I am. I'm happy to meet your family finally, and I know I'm going to scare your daughter, which I'm sorry for in advance.
Yeah,
but
I feel like we should do like a pre-interview of my daughter and her expectations of you, and then a post-interview to see how things
And then
go.
the post interview will actually be your wife's legs with like your daughter's hands, kind of the only part of your daughter that you actually see because she's still hiding behind your wife. Yeah, it's not going to go well. Let's just agree to that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the expectations are low, as usual for any sort of meeting, but we will go from there. And speaking of Ignite, everybody, I know a bunch of our listeners are actually headed there. Paul and I are obviously headed there. And so on Monday and Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Podcast Center, and actually you can register for all this stuff in your little Build My Ignite app if you would like to be fancy-dancy. But in the Podcast Center, we will be there doing this show live. And I think we have a couple giveaways like hats and maybe a couple premium memberships. So it's definitely worth making the trek out there because then we can all leave together and get lost like we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's use Apple Maps this time.
Paul, they
because it
say
couldn't
that
get any worse.
That on the first anniversary of something, you're supposed to give paper. So I hope you're planning to give me lots of cold, hard money.
No, I'm going to give you regular paper, which we can burn for heat when we're lost and can't find our way back.
Surprisingly, that might be more useful.
Yep.
So yeah. Yep. All right, let's kick this thing off. All right. So progressive web apps, Microsoft's made a pretty big hoopla about this. Google has actually, for that matter. And a lot of people are wondering, are these things going to come to the Microsoft Store? And I think they are. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes, it is. I've been kind of wondering how this was going to happen and when this was going to happen. I think I've been a little too, I guess I could have foreseen this if I'd really thought it through, but for some reason I thought a lot of this would happen through Edge, but actually they're going to handle progressive web apps the way Microsoft would handle progressive web apps. They're going to allow developers of these apps to submit them for inclusion in the store, starting with the next version of Windows after the Fall Creators Update, so Windows 10 version 1803. Oddly and surprisingly, they're actually also going to scour the web using the Bing indexing and search engine to find progressive web apps and then automatically put those in the store as well. That's sure to be controversial with some, but I think the idea here is to get some high quality apps in the store for the first time, and that I think makes sense for a lot of people. But the cool thing about this stuff is that if you make a progressive web app correctly, it can integrate with the unique features in Windows 10, the notification system, with Action Center, live tile support, on and on and on. So the way that Microsoft described it last week at that Edge Developer Summit was these things are native apps. They can do whatever native apps can do. So I'm actually pretty excited about this. So we know the timing. We know how they're going to do it. They're kind of secretly right now, not so secretly because they told us, but actually testing some of these apps right now, apparently internally. And as a developer, if you make progressive web apps, you can, or if you have web apps, you can convert them to progressive web apps very easily. You just add some, basically some manifest file stuff to them to make it a progressive web app. You can test that stuff in Microsoft Edge today using the Fall Creators Update. You have to set a switch in the browser. They have that about : flags interface. We can turn on advanced or coming features, and you can get started that way too. So kind of a lot of good news there all of a sudden. I've been waiting and crossing my fingers and everything, but it looks like it's finally happening.
Yeah, and so to your point, the controversial point is that automatic ingestion into the store. We'll have to kind of wait and see how that is. More specifically, people were raising concerns like, what if this gets put into the store and then people like that developer doesn't want it in there? There has to be some sort of form of communication back and forth.
I agree. I guess the way to think of it though is if you have I think for the developer or for the web app to get into the store, it has to meet certain criteria. And you as a developer would have had to explicitly put that stuff into your web app for that to happen. So I hear you. I mean, my first reaction to that was like, well, what if you wanted to charge for that thing? But the truth is, if this is a web app, it's on the internet for free anyway. And if you're making money in other ways, like for example, if Thurrott.com was suddenly a progressive web app or whatever, we have advertising. I assume that would push through. I mean, it would be the website, right? And of course, we have a premium program for customers who are paying not to see ads and for other benefits. That would apply to the app version as well. So it wouldn't impact our ability to do things, right? Or anyone else's, really. I guess you know, the weird part of it is if you created an app specifically thinking, I'm going to put this thing in the store and I intend to charge for it, and then Microsoft crawled the web and found it somehow and put it up there, yes, that would be, you can see where that might be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for you, Paul, and unless I'm going to try to turn this into the wrong conjugated form. Unless I have been progressive web apping wrong, is there any way to create these things so that when you open them, it doesn't look like it's actually running in a browser?
Yeah, so actually when they're distributed to the store, they won't look like they're running in a browser because it won't be in the browser frame. And so if you know the URL for a progressive web app, like the Twitter Lite app is one I always use the example of, mobile.twitter.com. You could go to that site in Edge and it would run in Edge. You could pin it to your taskbar and you could click on it and it would open in Edge and it would look like Edge because it is Edge. But if that thing was in the Windows Store and you installed it and you ran it, it would have an empty window frame. It would look like a web app does when you pin apps from Chrome today, right? And so that's not the point of putting it through the store, but that is the basics. Like, in other words, is there a difference between the store version and the web version? That's the first difference, right? That's the difference everyone will get. But the developer can optionally choose to support Windows 10 explicitly, and they can add information to their existing app and say, well, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. If you want to do something like banner notifications and integrate with Action Center, the question now is, would you get those benefits from Edge, or would you need to be running the app? If it happened today, you'd pretty much have to have the app because Edge doesn't fire notifications unless that app is running in a browser tab somewhere. Whereas when you install it as an app, it can run in the background, or it can get push notifications rather, and it doesn't have to be in a browser tab. And so there are going to be advantages to getting the app version. A lot of people are like, well, you know, why go through the app? Like in Android, you can already pin a web app like this to your home screen, just like you can in Windows with Chrome. And yeah, that's true. But there's no native OS integration, but actually that's not necessarily true. I think to get the native OS integration and to have the best experience on Windows, you're going to want to get it through the App Store.
Yeah. And so this raises a very interesting question, if you will. Is Google going to play nicely here?
Well, Google doesn't own it, right? So the question really is who supports it and how. And so if you look at the three biggest platform makers today, Google, Apple, and Microsoft, Google is the furthest ahead. They do support it. They support it in Chrome. They support it through Chrome OS. They support it in Android. And Microsoft has promised to implement it. And now we've got some more details about the timing and how they're going to do it. So that's happening. In fact, even back at Google I/O, I think it was, if not, it was the recent Google developer event that was in Europe. I think it was in Poland. Google gets up on stage and talks about progressive web apps. And one of the companies they mentioned is Microsoft. You know, they're saying, look, Microsoft's doing this too. And then there's Apple. Apple has basically said, yeah, we're working on it for Safari, but they provided zero details. Apple, you could argue, doesn't have as much of a need to add progressive web apps to the store. They already have the best app store in the world, right? So, and you can already pin websites to the iOS home screen. So I guess that would be how that kind of worked. You might not get native OS integration. We don't really know what's going to happen there. If you mean, is Google going to play nice with their own progressive web apps, I guess. I am not sure that Google has ever announced their plans for, are they going to make Gmail a progressive web app? Are they going to make Google Calendar a progressive app? By the way, the day that they do that, if they do, that solves the problem, right, on Windows, that we can't get apps from Google, right? All of a sudden today, that day, we will be able to. The other thing they revealed, I think you might have seen this would have been big for you because you were our primary source of information about Microsoft Teams for a little while there. Microsoft Teams was written as a web app. It's not a progressive web app today, but the biggest chunk of code in the app is all on the web. And then what they do is they tailor it using various frameworks for different platforms. And so Windows 7 and the Mac uses one framework. Windows 10 uses one. Android and iOS use one. And I'm not sure if I'm missing any, but I think that's about it. But because they created it as a web app from the ground up, turning that into a progressive web app is super easy. It basically just involves adding certain kind of XML type files to it and supporting certain features and so forth. And it will be on Windows 10 a progressive web app that they distribute through the store. So that's Microsoft is doing this. Now, I don't know on the Google side. That's an interesting question, whether the primary Google apps will be made available as progressive web apps. So it'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, it would absolutely solve a lot of problems. The other thing too, and I think it was the Joe Finn who asked this question to me earlier. He said, could you see Microsoft just making their Outlook.com platform a progressive web app, and then that replace the mail and calendar app that's in Windows 10?
Yep. Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. You know, we often make fun of Microsoft for having so many different Outlooks around the world, you know, or around the platforms. What if, you know, what if? I mean, you kind of want to look at what Apple's doing because you support Outlook on the Mac as well. And wouldn't it be amazing if you could have the same Outlook application on the web for anybody from anywhere, on Windows, on the Mac, on mobile, every platform. And then on each of those things, this is what they're doing with Teams, you're using whatever framework to support the native OS features in a way that it just looks and works like an app. I mean, one of the things the guy said from Microsoft that I thought was so true and is important to remember, because I talk a lot of progressive web apps, like there's going to be a little PWA logo up at the top, and you're going to be able to tell. People don't know that these things are progressive web apps. They don't care. They don't care how that app was made. They don't care how it got here. They just want to use it, and if it works, that's all they care about. And so, yeah, this could be the key to not just Microsoft, but a lot of companies creating consistent experiences across platforms while still taking advantage of native features. It's kind of the promise of Java that was never really realized, because Java always shot for the least common denominator. And I think people who don't understand PWA think that that's what's happening again, and that's not the case. These native OS integration bits are one of the many things that make these things very interesting.
Yeah, definitely more to come, and that's coming, at least their target, as long as they hit everything, is 1809. Is that correct?
Yep, 1803.
Or 1803, that's right. So that should be arriving in the spring, along with Timeline and Cloud Clipboard and all those other features we actually want. So,
okay, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. Although they did, I went back and looked at build. They implied it was coming in the Fall Creators Update, and so I think it's probably maybe a more realistic timeline. But what I'm hoping to see is over the next few months is the ability to test this stuff through the Insider program, right? I think that'd be kind of awesome. If you have an Insider preview build, you can get a link to a store app that is a progressive web app, install it, and you know, give it a shot and see what, you know, banner notifications look like, and how live tiles use all those native features, use it offline, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, and I'm actually really holding out that they are actually going to take that Outlook experience from the web and bring it locally, because the calendar on the web is actually pretty good. I mean, I would compare it to what Google does. And so my problem right now with the calendar app, and I still haven't found a great replacement for this, is on Monday and Tuesday of next week, Paul, you're probably like this, you have a lot of events. Is that fair to say? Yeah, a lot of things going on.
It's my calendar looks like Swiss cheese next week.
Yes. So that's about what mine looks like. And so I like to look at things on the month view. That's just my preferred standard view. I like the month view. You can talk me into week view all you want, but month view is much more helpful for what I do. Okay. Here's the problem, Paul. I have too many events on Monday and Tuesday, and I can't actually scroll down inside that little cube to see what they are.
Yeah, in other words, you want to be able to spin through the day, the square that is the Monday, and see what's inside of it. Yeah. The other thing that would be helpful on a mobile device, if you could press and hold on it and have it kind of pop up full screen or whatever, scroll through that list and get back out. You know, if only there were ways to make user interfaces like the ones we've just described.
Yes, and especially because Microsoft, if you follow any of the Windows designers on Twitter, they're very trying to find nice words about how like in tune they are and like how they read all these books. But then you open the calendar app and you're like, which book did you read?
Well, remember, is it Outlook.com? I think it is Outlook.com. That's being, they have a beta for Outlook.com, but it's only the inbox, right? And so one of the things that should be coming in the next weeks or months or whatever is they will redo the people and calendar bits of that interface. And, you know, there's no indication that they will have solved this problem, but, you know, it will at least be prettier.
Yay.
Great.
Speaking of the Windows Store, Paul,
Mhm.
it looks like Microsoft put a little tote bag down on the taskbar. Have you seen this?
Yeah. Not, excuse me, getting over this cold. Not in person, but I did see it on the web, and it must be true. Yeah, I guess in the release preview rings of Windows Insider now, you can get the new version of the store, which is being rebranded to Microsoft Store, which is a change they should have made years and years ago. You wrote an article one time saying, why can't I go to the Windows Store and buy, I don't remember what the example, a Surface accessory or something like that, or Office 365 or whatever. It's a good question, and when you think about the changes they've made over the past year, like the ebook store that came to the Windows Store, and the fact that there's content in there that is not Windows specific. If you have a Groove Music Pass, or you're going to buy music from Groove, or if you want to watch a movie or TV show that you bought from Microsoft, that stuff's not tied to Windows. You could do that on the Xbox as well. And so kind of raises the question, why do we have all these different names for something that is clearly the same store? It should just be called Microsoft Store. It should be called that on Xbox. It should be called that on Windows. It should be called that on the web. It should have all the stuff in each place. You can already browse Xbox game. In fact, you can browse, buy, and remotely install Xbox One games from the Windows Store on Windows 10. Well, why are we calling this thing the Windows Store? So I guess we're not. I guess we're going to change it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the icon. If you've ever bought anything from the Microsoft Store and gotten that white tote bag, it's like they took that and said, hey, that'd make a good icon. And then they put it in the taskbar.
Well, the thing, right. It's the type of bag, like if you, this is an out-of-date reference, I guess, because things are not this black and white, obviously. But if you were to go to a mall in the 1980s and go shopping with your wife or something, you might be carrying the bags, right? And the bags always look like those bags. It's like the really thick material and like maybe a cloth strap or something. And it was the type of bag you never wanted to have because it was always stuff that wasn't for you anyway. And yeah, it does have that kind of weird connotation. But the thing that I do like about it is that it's flat, which is consistent with most of the icons in Windows 10 these days. If you look at the modern stuff, obviously there are, it's all over the map. Like if you look at the, I think it's the Notepad app, is basically the one from Windows Vista where it's turned to the side like at a 45-degree angle, and the cover of the notebook is actually made of glass so you can see through it, because that's what things were like in 2005, 2006, and it hasn't changed, and God knows why. But anyway, this one's flat in 2D, and the other store, if you think about it, also a shopping bag, but it was turned to the side slightly for some reason because some icons are and some aren't, and so consistency, they're getting there. Plus, there's colors.
Yep. Yeah, everybody likes colors, including my daughter, who wants to know what your favorite color is, Paul.
My favorite color is green.
Well, she will be the determining factor in that, if that's what she chooses for you.
If I know your daughter, like I think I do. Haven't met her, but having seen her online, I believe her favorite color is sprinkles.
So this has happened several times using this device. If it was possible to like hit instant replay, you would have seen that I was trying to use this device, and it kicks me to the login screen, like in the middle of using it.
Brad, I am begging you, and I mean begging you. You got to bring this thing to Ignite.
Well, what will happen is
you try to use this.
Satya will be on stage, and one of these things will just land at his feet, and he'll be like, "You fix it!" Like
that's so. I was literally just thinking I would give anything for you to hum that thing up on stage, have it spin over to his feet, and then just hear a voice from the audience say, "Fix it."
And this is Windows 10s. I honestly would bring this thing if it had a video editor.
So
I don't know, like the one that Microsoft's been promising since Build, that was supposed to come in the fall, that would be on this device. If it actually had a video editor where I could do some of that stuff, I probably would. But
sure,
I'm
looking forward to
the day crash.
When our podcast videos are just full of like augmented reality bits and flaming fireballs and Tyrannosaurus Rexes. Yeah,
actually,
just going to put it over the top.
Our first guest will be Tupac, the hologram.
The hologram.
He will show up.
Paul's not here this week, but Tupac is here.
this show knows no bounds.
Right.
Paul, I know that you moved to Pennsylvania and you're basically in corn country in Amishville now. But what's the latest update on your electricity?
So we just got the latest bill from our electrician today. My wife is in a coma right now, and it's not as funny as it sounds. But yeah, it's, I joked on Twitter about this, but like we're the first people on Earth that have ever underestimated the cost of a home renovation by a factor of possibly 200%. But yeah, so the electrical stuff is almost done. In fact, since I posted that, they've finished putting all of the kind of the panels and stuff around, but it's taken a really long time. Like I knew this was a big job. When I hired the guy, I was like, look, it's a whole house thing. It's going to take forever. It's going to be expensive. I get it, but it was a lot more expensive than we thought it was going to be. And it's still not done. Like it's been roughly 3 weeks. These guys have been in my house every single day for 3 weeks. So,
oh wow,
it's been very expensive, but we still have 2 fans to replace and a couple of little things. But it's one of those things, like there's so much to do because we did switch consolidation. We removed dimmers where they weren't needed and added them back where they were, where they are needed, and changed the type of dimmer so that made sense. I'm looking at the room I'm in now. There's a panel of 3 switches that's just a hole in the wall over on the right side, and then to my left there's a panel that was 1 switch that had 5 or 6 things in it. It was just a single size switch, but that are both just holes in the wall because they were redundant. And that one of the things I really wanted to do was consolidate all that stuff. But now, because of the cost of this, what's really happened is I won't be able to eat for the next month. So I think I'm going to be losing some weight. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. If you thought I couldn't afford the iPhone 10 before, let me tell you, I really can't afford it today.
All I could think about when you're talking about that is that you just paid someone a whole bunch of money to install the clapper into your house.
Yeah, the way my wife said it was, we just paid somebody a whole lot of money to make the switches white. Which is a gross generalization, but fair.
Well, happy home ownering?
Yeah, well, we moved here to save money, so that's working out great.
Maybe you could hawk off a few HP computers to them.
Jeez, yeah, really. Can I pay you in used Surface Books? Some of these probably work, sort of.
This one's a first iteration Skylake. Give it to somebody you don't like. Yeah. Yep. A couple of people asked who are headed to Ignite where the podcast center is, by the way. The podcast center is located in the north-south building, because that's not confusing. 2nd floor to the right of the escalators. So.
Yeah, and right now that's just like a text description that means nothing to us. So we'll have to go look and see what that really looks like. But
well, we will figure out this location by heart roughly Tuesday evening.
Yeah, right, when it doesn't matter anymore. Perfect.
Right. So it is Friday, folks, and on Friday, one of the things we do is take a look back at some of the comments that are hopefully berating Paul and not myself. Speaking of comments, Paul, by the way, did you see that email that Microsoft sent out that included one of our posts from the site in their Office 365 Insider email?
I did, Brad, because you emailed it to me and everyone else we work with. Although I did get it in email anyway. I mean, just because I'm on Office 365. But.
And I think the specific email said, Paul, don't get your hopes up. It's something I wrote.
Sure.
Anyways, an old Amiga user writes on the Google pricing, Paul, in that post, you had a quote that says, after all, you don't even know I exist. To which this user correctly points out, says, Paul, not only does Google know you exist, they know where you live, they know the route you take home from work, and everything else about you.
Yep, that's a fair point. I guess what I meant by that was from more of a professional standpoint. But yes, you're right.
Yep. And then Wonderbar wrote, actually, on the post that I wrote up about my app makeover, and actually this is pretty fascinating. He says, I've always found it fascinating that you and Paul are completely different in this regard. Paul wants as much as possible running through a browser and web app, and Brad is going the exact opposite direction. And this is why Paul and I get along so very well.
No, I mean, I looked at that article, and again, I apologize for that, but you had a line in there where you said something like, the conclusion here is that web apps are completely unsuitable for whatever it was, and I was like, that is the exact opposite of my experience. But I think that's the the beauty of life, right? I mean, we all have different experiences and different expectations and needs and wants or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I went through the whole thing with Windows 10s and Chromebook, and I found that the Chromebook stuff made a lot more sense to me and for what I do than the Windows 10s stuff. But here you are, you're using Windows 10s, and you're looking for apps from the store, you know? So the progressive web apps thing, by the way, might be the thing that brings us together in the middle. I mean, those will be, you know, so yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get the Hatfield and McCoys here. And to be honest, I'm very optimistic about progressive web apps. I totally see how that is going to kind of transform the app world that we know today. And so that cannot come soon enough. And I'll be curious to see Microsoft's implementation. And I have to think that Microsoft is very bullish on this too, because I would suspect that when they, this sounds bad, but when they get these apps into the store and you go and run that progressive web app, they're going to consider that you an Edge user.
Wow. Maybe that's how they got there. This is people testing it. By the way, there's a lot of issues here. You know, in the debate around like, well, why do we have to get them to the store? You know, you don't like, what's the point of that, and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's a promise to the store, and the promise is to end users that the apps that you get there are going to be safe and reliable. They're not going to hurt your battery life. You know, there's this whole story around store apps. Well, when you wrap a web app in an AppX container, which is what that is, isn't that thing by nature kind of unpredictable? I mean, you know, what stops the app maker from changing it after the fact, because it's up on the cloud anyway, and doing something different? You know, it's like, oh, it seems like we're getting a lot of users on Windows 10. Let's start sending ads that way or whatever. I mean, I don't know how they can keep ahead of that, you know, exactly. I mean, you know, we'll see. The automatic addition of progressive web apps to the store, as well as, like you said earlier, is a little strange. Like, you know, I mean, it's not going to be hard for someone to figure out, well, here's the parameters Microsoft's looking for. We'll put these files in there. And then once we know we're in the store, we'll start sending the malicious stuff out, you know?
Yeah.
I know the point of the container, and I know there's stuff built in to help prevent everything I just described, but I mean, I'm curious. Like, this is it's kind of an interesting gray area. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure RAF will be one of the first people to do to exploit that once it's all live.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Mad Thinus asks in the chat room, Paul. He says, "What device are we going to be testing on the back of a bicycle in Orlando?"
Oh boy. Well, there's not going to be a bicycle. Actually, what it's going to be is the log ride that goes down the river thing that you go over the waterfall.
I should bring the Surface Studio. Just lug that thing.
Yes. Boy. I don't think I'm going to bring multiple computers to this thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
That I'm going to be able to do this. Maybe we'll have to buy it. I don't know. I will have to see. I don't think we've completely figured out what this is going to be. I can tell you it's not going to be like the Dumbo ride or Space Mountain. It's going to have to be, I don't know. We got to figure this out. That's a good question.
Are you trying to break my heart on live television, Paul?
I'm not saying you can't go on those rides. I'll wait there with your daughter while you and your wife go. I'm just saying, you know, we'll figure something out. Something Florida appropriate. Maybe we could get chased by an alligator or a crocodile. I always forget which is which in Florida.
That's all possible. Maybe we could just go golfing and act like we're retired.
Oh, I would like that.
I would like that. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, just super pumped about this trip, Brad, and I'm so excited I can barely contain myself. Nope. No, I guess not. What about you?
I got a lot of packing to do, to be honest. I've got, well, you can see some of the stuff still sitting here from yesterday's show, but this is stuff so that I don't forget it. Packing and then trying to...
Plus you're leaving earlier, right? You're leaving in the morning.
Yeah. I will be in Orlando, hopefully at a pool by now, but although it might be raining, but I still might be at a pool because it's going to be 7 million degrees while we're there.
Yeah, you're going to be there at least 12 hours before me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to make sure I take all the good rooms and leave you the janitor's closet.
Just cancel my reservation when you arrive, and then go take the most peaceful nap of your life.
He's not coming. Oh gosh.
Oh, jeez.
So there we go, everybody. As always, everyone, we do this show Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday are not live, but next week we will be live on Monday and Tuesday. Definitely check that out. You can check out the YouTube subscribe link. It's actually in this post for the show. And so subscribe to that to make sure you catch up on everything that we do. We'll be at Ignite. We've got a couple meetups on a Tuesday evening, and we're looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. So as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you right back here next week from Orlando on First Ring Daily.
I got to talk to my brother and see if he's still planning on visiting on Monday. I originally told him Monday because at the time it was the one day that didn't have a lot of stuff. And now there's a bunch of stuff.
I was going to say, that worked out well. That worked out real well. Paul, I'm going to call you after this because I thought of a good idea.
Okay.
So, everybody else, have a good weekend. Suncast, I will get you a title here after the show, unlike last week where you pinged me about 5 hours later and said, hey, what the hell's the title? I was like, oh, yeah, you might want that. So, yes. All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Bye.